Years of training, watching the best AV actors around the world do their craft, as if every single video they ever produced, their entire career, rode on that fine little line. Now imagine you are this guy and don't get fuck all in the career. I mean, you get no acting roles, nothing. All you are is the guy at the end of the gangbang and then get paid your $5,000 and get told to fuck off. Now imagine that same guy getting hit by a truck and getting sent to another world where the things he learned in his career turned him into one of the greatest porn stars in a foreign land. If that sounds interesting to you, then today we're going to discuss Isekai, porn star in another world.
Can you review this podcast?
How's it going, everybody? Podcast Eddie here, the host with the wiener to match his demeanor. Now, with that little intro right there, you must be thinking, well, podcast, what kind of story did you read that would match even remotely close to what that's supposed to be? Well, the story that I'm talking about is Isekai, porn star in another world. The whole premise of it is a young AV star who obviously, the best way I can put it, is someone who puts a lot of work into their craft, but for some reason still just gets shit on by every major actor. The way how did they put it? They put him as a bukkake boy, which is probably the weirdest fucking thing to call somebody. But he was basically low on his luck, didn't get to do shit, would always be the guy that, the way he'd put it is he would be the pizza boy that didn't go out for deliveries that night. That's how they summed him up as a character. So he has one bad day and he just walks out, just leaves, and he's like, well, fuck this, another bad day, it'll be better tomorrow. Then as he's walking away, he gets hit by the truck. He gets hit by the truck that they're filming the scenes in. I love this. I even wrote it in my notes as they finally explain what kind of fucking truck hits him. Because no matter what isekai I've ever read, they never say what the truck was. They always just have it as, oh, look, oh, no, a truck mollywopped him. We don't know if there's anything with it. Nope. They explained it, which I think there's a lot of things that they do in this manga that go against what normal stories do, which I will get into when it comes down to the things that I like and things that I dislike. But he, basic isekai, he gets nailed by a truck, goes into a different world, and it's a different world, but porn is a lot more, it's a lot less taboo than what it would be in the real world. So, of course, he falls into this new world and does what he needs to do, and they're like, oh my God, it's amazing. He knows how to do all these things. Where did he learn all these tricks? It's fucking goofy. That's the only way I can explain this, is it's fucking goofy. Because anytime they do an AV scene, it is some of the most shonen-esque fighting I have ever read. But it's just some dude banging. That's all it is. I wish I could say it was something a little deeper than this. But anytime a new scene comes up and he's like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to handle this, he gets this moment of, again, if you've read a shonen, or not even, God, if you've read a shonen, or if you've read any sort of fighting manga and they have a flashback of, what can I do so I'm able to beat this strong enemy? It is that same realm. And if you think I'm joking, please, for the love of God, go read this series. It is 35 chapters, but anytime a new scene comes up, he has this moment of when he would talk to one of his higher up AV actors and ask him, what can I do to be the best in this? What can I do to be the best in that? How can I do something that would make me better in this scene? And of course they explain it, and he uses it to get farther in the porn world. And I would love to say that annoys me. I would love to say that reading it would bother me seeing that it's just the same thing over and over again. But it doesn't. It doesn't bother me because it's a different thing. So for the first one, the first major one they do is kind of just like, oh, normal Boykin, the guy that they had in the first panel that was the first porn star in this new world, if you want to call it that. He was just a big, ugly ogre dude. I mean, small guy comes and he's like, oh, well, my, dongle doesn't hang down to my fucking knees, so this should be a lot easier. That's all it is. And then we go, context. They're all talking, all having a great time, meeting each other, yada, yada, yada. Then the first big dungeon they go to find a scene, it's a Batgirl. And she said, well, the only way I'm doing a scene is if you can catch me. And of course, I wasn't expecting a tentacle monster thing in the first, 4 chapters. That one really took me off surprise, but they find a tentacle monster inside. They find a tentacle monster inside of the cave that they are recording in. So, of course, it is still technically a hentai. So, tentacle monster, grab the Batgirl. They did the deed. It was one of the best movies ever made. Yeah, all of that. That's a common trope they also do, which that one is yeah. When we get to it, I'll discuss it more. But yeah, there's a lot of common tropes that they use that I just, to a normal reader or to somebody who writes stories like this, it would seem as it's schlocky. It might not be schlocky to anybody else, but I think it is. Just my little 2 cents. The next one that really I thought was funny was there's a slime monster that helps him out. That is the director of all of these AVs. It's his little slime assistant helping them do the scenes and kind of setting things up. Well, it's a mummy girl. So obviously I'm trying to explain this and explain it in a way that doesn't make me seem like a fucking pervert, but I have to explain it the way that it's wrote, and it's going to kill me. So, obviously a mummy girl. So, she's bone dry, not a single drop of moisture. So what does this dude do? He's like, oh, you know what exists? Lubricant. And he's trying to find it in a world that obviously they don't know what it is. So what he does, and I wrote this in my notes, he grabs this slime monster, wrings it out of all of its sweat, then uses it as lube in a scene. And it's funny because I'm watching my girlfriend laugh while I'm explaining this because she can see my hands, she can see the hand movements I'm doing as well. He uses sweat as lube. I wish again, if you do not believe anything I'm saying here, go read it. It is 35 short chapters. The most they are is the first 3, and they're 35 pages long. Beyond that, it's 15 pages. That's just another... It's the goofiest fucking shit. And then, of course, you have to have a gigantic woman at one point. They got to be huge. So what do? Well, obviously, nobody knows how we're going to handle it. Nobody knows how we're going to handle this gigantic woman. And they meet a professor who found a drill because it fell from another world, so nobody knows what to do with it. It's all brand new technology. This woman is about as tall as 2 skyscrapers combined. So how are we going to do anything with it? Well, they make a gigantic dildo drill. And it works. It just works. No farther explaining than it just fucking works. And that's the funniest thing is I can't explain any more of these because it's so on the nose. Every scene is so on the nose that if I explained it, I am telling it panel by panel by panel. So I want to talk about one of my favorite scenes before we get into the likes and dislikes of this manga. My favorite scene would have to be the tentacle monster that they find. he sticks around to sort of help them make all these AV movies. And he's like, well, I've been seeing how you do it, and I want to be a part of it. And the main character's like, okay, I have no issue with that, but I got a question to ask you. I mean, it's serious. Like, he gets to this serious tone where he's trying to figure out how to ask a certain question. So he asks him, okay, if you're going to do this, I need to know one thing. Everybody's tense. Everybody's quiet. Nobody knows what to do here. The main character asks this tentacle monster, where's your penis? Because it's just you just float. Imagine Squidward tentacles. That's the best way I can explain it. He just asks him, like, where's your penis? He's like, oh, well, it's right here. It's just dragging on the floor. It's the seriousness. The seriousness of this. Just to ask, hey, where's your dongle? So the last scene with this guy is first with the first tentacle monster it's basically just he helps with tentacles again, hentai, haha, joke. That's what it is. Now, my favorite part, we get to dive into my likes and dislikes of this manga. So first, let's do dislikes, because my dislikes are a lot shorter than what my likes are. Dislikes, I don't like how short most of the chapters are. I know a common thing is most chapters range from 20 to 25 pages in a decently sized manga, where the most this reaches, like I said, in the first two are 35. That's the most that's the most pages that those chapters reach, and then we kind of get nothing. Like, we get nothing in those 35 pages. It's my problem is it talks way more than what it shows. Like, it has characters interacting, but it feels like there's no actual substance behind all of these conversations that are happening. Which, cool. You know, if that's how they want to portray it, that's how they want to portray it. But I don't like the way the characters interact with each other, because it just feels bland. Like, they throw random shit at you. They throw random stuff at you all the time. Like, oh my gosh, this character said this. That's wacky and zany. Oh my God, he really doesn't think that he can sell porn in a fucking new world. That's about as much as the conversation's extent. Another dislike is the pacing is incredibly fucking weird. Like, it's not fast. The pacing is not fast whatsoever, but it's not slow. There's no in a normal harem manga, if you've ever read one, it kind of, you meet one person, get a story behind it, then you meet the next person, so on and so forth. Like, there's a build up to each person that you interact with. You get a little bit more of story behind it, a little backstory. But unfortunately, this one is, you meet girl, they do the scene, next chapter. Meet girl, do the scene, next chapter. And they don't change this up until the last two chapters that have been released. 34 and 35, you get more story than just like they're banging it out. So cool. I mean, if that was their goal because they didn't know if this would be something that gets a lot of publication time, I totally understand that. If that was the pacing goal, awesome. You nailed it. If not, the fuck are you doing? I don't understand what the goal was here. So that's my dislikes. I mean, it's not a lot. It's mostly just story-wise, but again, that it's kind of blaming on what I was reading. So story is something probably a lot of people aren't reading it for, but that's what I was. Now, we get to go into my favorite part, is the likes. What I like about this, because that is marginally longer than what my dislikes are. So first off, my like is the same as one of my dislikes. The story. The story may have a weird pacing, but I love the way that they make every scene seem like a shonen fight. Like, he goes in with this deep process of training, talking to AV actors, coming in with high action, learning special movement. and it's all about just AV movies. But there's such a shonen fight style to it that it kind of makes you forget what you're reading for a second. Which it stands out. It stands out in that aspect because most of the stuff in that category are kind of boring. They read like a very cheesy romance movie instead of a fighting thing, and I'm glad they went with that style. The way another one of my likes is the way the art style changes. They'll do very realistic, very 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 realistic. Like body proportions are right. You have the main character who will sometimes be the perfect proportions and then turns the main character into a chibi. Or you have people with the wide eyes and the big mouth. So the art style is another thing that I can really really enjoy about it. Another thing that I like is just how goofy it is. Thank thank God. Thank whatever God I believe in that we have gotten a story that does not take itself too seriously because it knows what it wants to be. It found its footing in the first three chapters. It found what it wanted to do. It found its niche, and it's not going anywhere. It's staying right in the spot where it's at. And that's something I've noticed a lot of mangas don't want to do is they try and find their footing way later. Like way way later. You'll be in chapter 65 and they're finally like, "Oh, okay. Well, now we're going to introduce the main bad guy." Or now we're going to introduce like the main overarching theme of a story. Where this in chapter 2 it's like, "Yo, this dude got hit by a truck. He's in another world. He's using techniques from watching pros, using them now. That is the story. That's where we're going with it. There's nothing more we can really give you. There's nothing more that we really want to give you because that's it. That's it. We should not expect a whole fuck ton from something called Isekai pornstar in another world. And if you do, that's kind of your fault, not ours." I don't know the upload schedule of this, so I can't really tell you when the next chapter is uploaded. I just got caught up today, and I was at 35, and I think last year when I read this, it was at 10. So I don't know the upload schedule of that, but I definitely recommend going to read it if you if you want to kill like, I don't know, 2 hours. 2 hours, just dedicate time to it. My last like of this is, again, another dislike, which is very weird, but the characters, the way they interact with each other, it's very business professional, but we are also friends at the same time. The way the director just constantly is like harassed by all of the people that suddenly live in his house is just fucking hilarious to me because this dude was just living a quiet life being a director. Then all of a sudden a guy falls out of the sky and now he's got 25 different people living in his house coming in and out of his house now. And he says it multiple times. He's like, I just miss when things were quiet and peaceful and I didn't have to deal with everybody. It's wonderful. It's also nice to see a main character who is shy, but at the same time an outgoing person. That's a very weird dynamic to fit. It's a very niche area to find the sweet spot in, and this manga has somehow found that sweet spot, and I cannot praise it enough on how they wrote him off. So overall, I would give this maybe a solid give it a 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 cigarettes if I were to give it something. The only way it would have made a 5 out of 5 is if it was longer and the pacing made more sense. If they added a little bit more depth to some of the characters, I think I would like it that much more. But with the way it's at right now, yeah, I'd say 4 out of 5 cigarettes. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Sake and Smokes podcast. I appreciate you for listening. If you like this, then why don't you go tell your friends, go tell your neighbors, go tell your animals, go tell the friendly neighborhood cookie dealer down the street. We know he doesn't deal cookies, but that's what we tell the IRS. Thank you. If you like what you hear, please leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you liked it. Tell me if you hate it. You could even tell me that you wish I never you don't ever want to hear my voice again. I just want to hear from you. I don't know what the next series is going to be, so that's going to be fun for everybody. But if you have any recommendations that you would like me to throw on an episode, please do not hesitate to send me an email at gibbyhatesyou@proton.me. That is my little business email I like to use. So, with that being said, everybody, have a great day. Have a wonderful night. And as always, please, for the love of God, it might be cold outside, but you still need to fucking shower. Please, for the love of God, keep your balls clean.